Welcome to Offset. Larry and the big man, Jay Caufield, two-time Stanley Cup champion. I'm Larry Richert, and Dave Ricchini, who's our mastermind of the stats, to make sure that we're speaking straight up on all the numbers. Right, Dave?
Correct.
We
So
want to
far,
thank
so good, Larry.
One Team Media, Brian Hess, and his team, Logan Douglas, Ryan Jorgen, for producing today's great work. And we also want to thank Odyssey Pittsburgh, Michael Spacciapoli, for this strategic partnership, and Andrew Filipponi, who also joins us weekly to get his take on the Steeler games. Gentlemen, where do you want to start?
Well, let's look around the league. Let's look back at week 6 a little bit. Some of the games that we saw and what made an impact to us. And I know the one for me, when I watched, if you looked at, if we were picking games and you're looking at games and who might win, even if you said no line, just you're picking a winner. And Philly's going against the Giants. I immediately think Philadelphia is going to win that game. I thought how the Giants came in. Yeah, I know. I think the Giants, they now have maybe put that little division upside down as well. People are wondering, what are they going to get? I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but the Eagles have been riding by and getting wins. And they're multiple, two of their wins at least could have gone the other way. Well, the Giants came in and kind of their attitude with the running back and the quarterback situation, right, that they brought in, who everybody passed on, they're difference makers for them. And they took it to the Eagles. They were a much better team. That's the one game that caught my mind. I thought, I think the Eagles kind of got exposed in a lot of different ways, and the New York Giants' attitude came after them, and they were a much better team.
Still on the Eagles side, I still go back to, they lost their, what's their offensive mindset? And, Lane Johnson, the lineman, came out and said, we become a predictable team. You look back at the first 4 games of the season when they won, they were still a running team. Then, the wide receivers started making some noise in the locker room, and okay, we're going to start throwing the ball some more. I still don't get it. The last 2 games, Jalen Hurts, 280 yards passing per game, 8 yards rushing. The first 4 games, he ran for 62, 15, 40, and 62, all wins. When you add that part of his game with Saquon Barkley in the backfield, that almost like the read option, you got to defend 2 guys in a running game. These last 2 games, it was 1 guy they're defending, and teams were able to hone in on that. So I think that was an issue. And then the other part too, just to touch on the Giants. All you need to know about Jackson Dart is to see how Brian Dable reacted when he went in the tent. He was like a guy with a lost puppy going in, or like, hey, are you okay? And then it forced Russell Wilson to go in. And Wilson handed the ball off once and threw the ball once. You could see Dable's shaking his head. So I know we talked on Tuesday about Justin Fields being gone. I think the Steelers also made the right move and not bringing back Russell Wilson, but they have something going that with Dart and Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah,
I mean it's early, but that's a pretty good duo to have.
Go with just what Dave was talking about, just to build on that. I mean, you got 2 running backs. You got Derrick Henry and you got Barkley, right? Now you got Scatterbo in New York, and look how they're utilizing them, right? You get more snaps, more carries. But it's got to be a blend of both. But you can't shortchange the one. Jalen Hurts is the receivers. I understand that's how they build their life off of getting touches or being targeted. There has been something. They won with all the noise last year too. It's different this year, right? There's a different feel to it. I don't understand why you don't utilize the weapon. Like I said, John Harbaugh, with some of the games we watched with how many carries Henry's had, I don't get that part either. So the 2 of them combined, and they're both teams that can dominate just because they have running backs that are all world. And I like how going back now to the Giants, I like how they're utilizing the running back. And then we always know the running game opens up the passing game, and kind of vice versa. You need to have a passing game so they can't stack the line. So it's a little mix of both. I don't understand what they're doing in Philly, Dave. And I didn't understand what they were doing in Baltimore, which is a train wreck right now. Total train wreck. I mean, they only get injuries, but that's not in a good situation. But the Giants, yep, they jumped up the board for me. And they play aggressive. They're nasty. They get after it. So they were good.
Wouldn't you know, there were some headlines about how Detroit's one of the few teams that's been demonstrating who they are. And then all of a sudden, Kansas City flips a switch and beats them pretty soundly. And you're like, is this the Kansas City that's going to try to make a run to get back into it, try to get a three-peat. What did you think of that game?
It just,
and it got ugly at the end.
It did get ugly.
Yeah, it was kind of entertaining.
Mahomes was great. I mean, again, 257, 3 touchdowns. This week coming up against Rashee Rice back. So you got Xavier Worthy back 2 weeks ago. Now gets Rashee Rice back this week. So he gets more and more weapons. But it's just what I like to see, or not really like to see, but when I watch, every 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, Andy Reid has some sort of play, and it's effortless. Whether it's a pick, and they know the rules. Whether it's a pick play to get somebody wide open in a flat, or, you know, on Sunday night, the Lions are playing a lot of zone with their linebackers, and Kelsey will run 3 yards, turn around, and it's on him. So their game plan and ability to scheme and get those quick, easy conversions. Meanwhile, other teams are trying to run the ball up the middle and getting stuffed. That's what's impressive. But they're going to be, I mean, somehow we always try to write them off.
I know.
And there they are at the end of the season with one of the top seeds in the AFC, and that's a team you got to contend with.
I think Worthy coming back, Dave mentioned that brought this different element on the outside, right? So that's it. I also agree with one thing that I've noticed, trying to think who the linebacker is or the D-back for Kansas City. They called out Jones, who had over the last couple of weeks, had a couple plays that took it off, and they lose to Jacksonville because one, he just kind of gave up on the play. But I like how the players, and usually you're not going to see, I watched other players get in his face after that took place. That means that they know you've got guys in that locker room who are leaders. It isn't just the same, you know, there's a pride factor on Kansas City and some of the players. Can't believe I can't think of the name.
Bolton?
No. I think it was a D-back.
Tranquil?
Yes, Tranquil. So he got in Jones's face, which is rare. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see that. But when you see team players reacting that way, they're getting their weapons back. Mahomes took the game over and did his thing all night long. That game, in my opinion, last night now flipped. You know, Detroit was all of a sudden running away, even though Green Bay's there. But Green Bay, they've got, in my opinion, defensive issues still, because Cincinnati went up and down the field on them in the second half. But now they've brought Detroit by losing last night. Now they're not kind of running away in the NFC North. And we looked at what Casey did and everything Dave just said. They're now going to be something you have to deal with again. And again, it is amazing to me to live that high year after year with all the heat and the pressure and success they have, and you still got guys that come out and do what they do. You need special leaders inside of that locker room. You need a special head coach to do it too.
And I know, Jay, how concerned you are about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce engaged now, if that changes the dynamic.
Yeah, keep me posted.
All right.
No, we all agree. We all get tired of seeing that. I mean, there's not a person watching a game that isn't tired of seeing
He
that.
did send me a heart emoji when it was announced.
That said, let's talk about the 49ers. They got a little surprise in. How tough is Baker Mayfield? You got to.
We've talked about him for the last couple of weeks. We've talked about him for a while because how Cleveland gave up on him. Then you look at their quarterback room. What a mess it's been since you moved on from a guy who played the game hurt, gave it his all. Whether it's his attitude or something you don't like, but he's a guy that's going to win.
He was run out of Cleveland.
Right. Then he bets on himself, and he gets the opportunity. Right. First of all, in LA. There's a lot of people he can thank probably too for getting that opportunity.
He walked in and won there right out of the gate.
He made it happen out just getting there that first week. Then he bets on himself and he gets himself back to where he should be. The guy wins. The guy battles. That's what's even funnier how Cleveland treated him. When you look at the mess that they have in their quarterback room, and you let a guy who's, in my opinion, MVP should be top of the list as MVP candidate right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's been that good. And then 49ers. There goes my pen. The 49ers.
No more clicking, at least.
No more clicking. I do that all the time. I got to click a pen. Dave's used to that. The 49ers, Fred Warner going down. Man, that takes the heart. They've got so many bad injuries, but that takes the heart out of them.
It seems like every year the 49ers have some catastrophic injury.
They already lost Bosa. But the thing with Baker, though, too, he went into the game, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Bucky Irving, his top running back. And then early on, Emeka Egbuka, who's one of the top rookie wide receivers in the league, gets hurt. He doesn't play in the second half. And he's throwing to guys that you've never heard of. And he's still getting it done. And if you want to see, you talk about the fire from Baker Mayfield, go back and watch. There was a play on Sunday in the third quarter. They had 3rd and 14 in their own territory. He got hit 3 times in the pocket, scrambled, got the first down, then got up in the defender's face. That play, they're up 1 point at that point. They go on to he then throws a 45-yard touchdown pass, basically right after that. That play best exemplifies the passion he plays with.
Yeah.
Unless you're a fan of those, he's easy to root for just because he plays the right way. And his compete level is
and he doesn't have. I love the point that Dave made because he doesn't make any excuses about not having all his weapons. You could see a guy easily go, well, we didn't have this, we didn't have the running game, we didn't have this. He's never done it. And again, I go back to a guy. It's part of the deal too when you're playing sports, you're playing professional sports, and you play hurt, and you give everything to your team organization and your teammates by playing hurt, and then it doesn't go as well or the normal way. And then you're they jam you for it. Like, here's a guy that's given it all. You understand he's playing hurt. And that's why I go back to what they did to him in Cleveland. He played the game hurt. And they get rid of him. But it's amazing to me because athletes do give their all on that. You see what guys go through on a regular basis and the injuries they go through. The uniform covers it up. They're all hurt. But to the degree to some go to another level. And when you suck it up and get out there and play the game, and it's not quite the level you're used to, you shouldn't be knocked down, rung after rung. You should understand it. You would hope your organization would understand it. Cleveland did not. Tampa Bay gets the guy, and they're now, they make themselves a JIT. They're building around a guy that he's a true leader. And then Dave touched on all the other key points about it. But I love the story in Tampa Bay.
And he's getting some deserved recognition from sources that weren't paying as close attention before. All right, we got the big man. He's all fired up now. Big man blitz. Jay, what's on your list today?
Well, I had 2 things. There's a couple things. I'm going to go back to London, the game in London when the Minnesota Vikings, they're playing, and it's back to back. They're there, and they kick the field goal, and it goes wide right. And when you watch the game live, you saw kind of question a little bit, never thinking that it hit a wire. Well, it hits a wire, right? The sky cam hits the wire. Now, to me, it's a dead ball right away. They need to redo. Just like we talked about, and Dave researched it for us to prove the point. There's a rule. If a ball, like a kick, pass, punt, hits anything, we'll use the Dallas Cowboys scoreboard. It's a dead ball. You just replay it. You redo it. They don't do it there. Now, if you're betting and all the money that's changing hands on points going back and forth, over-unders, you name it, the line was 3.5. But nobody seemed in the NFL. They just go, okay, it's a miss. They finally said they agreed that it hit the wire. But they didn't get a redo. And that time, they didn't do it in time to do a redo. He missed the kick. So the game's going to change. Money's changing hands. And then after that's all said and done, Minnesota still wins, and they cover. But the NFL admits that they missed the call. But they won't correct the guy's record. That he was 8 for 8. Now he's 8 for 9. And why the NFL, to me, I don't understand. It's the power of the NFL. Why? You just wouldn't give a guy, hey, take it off the numbers, whatever. Because your guys have bonuses, guys have whatever. But as a kicker, you want every kick, right? Look, we had the best kicker in the game. He doesn't want to miss. So to me, I thought that was by the NFL, bad move. Don't agree with it. And they should have known if you're playing a game overseas, you should have every angle you need to have like you do here in the States. Or don't do it. That's my point on that one. And my last part, the field, stadium, NFL stadium should not have turf that guys, number one, can get hurt on. We've talked about what it was like in the Meadowlands and MetLife Stadium. That's been a downside for years with guys going down. I think Acrisure Stadium, the turf, couldn't believe it. Without that many games there, I didn't understand why it was that bad in the middle of the field. And NFL players shouldn't have to play on situations and where the field could get hurt. Or you miss a kick at the end. We saw Boswell miss the kick. He doesn't want to miss a kick, but what if that was a game-winning kick to win a game? Then it'd be a much bigger topic. Luckily, the Steelers won. You move on, but there was an injury, and we don't know if it's because of that, whatever. But I have a problem that the NFL cannot have, with that much time in between, that you should have had a better field. There's my 2 points.
That's the big man blitz, as you can tell, very fired up. Like bad ice. Did you ever play in a rink that was the ice is too soft or some issue?
Well, you had to watch it mainly in exhibition games. You had to watch it because you were traveling and playing different places. Remember, I played a game in Cleveland, We were playing the North Stars, in fact. And halfway through, we played one period and they canceled the game because the ice was so bad. I mean, truly, it was more of an issue back in the day. We used to play Madison Square Garden. Sometimes you go out there, the circus just ended. And there would still be
elephant droppings.
Like we would have our game pushed back. We would truly, Madison Square Garden to me is an amazing, amazing facility. I think the rink is like on the 4th floor. And the circus was there, and all the animals were in the back. And you could, when we walked up our little walkway to get to our locker room, all the animals are there. The circus ended. Our game would be pushed back. This is in the late 80s, 90s. Our game was pushed back to like 8 o'clock or 8:30. But when you're skating and warm up, you could see where the bolts were to run the wires for all the things that they do. But truly, I mean, now it's more of there's bad ice. Look at the guys they played outdoor games in Vegas, and I don't think the ice was ever that good. They have to be very careful with that. And they're well aware, and how they build the ice on their outdoor games today is phenomenal.
How did it smell in there?
Oh, it smelled like you would think. Right?
I would
truly
it smelled like a circus.
First of all, you're walking up a ramp and you're going into hostile territory, and it was all.
Could you imagine Jay game face ready walking by and like a clown is there trying to mess with him? I would pay a lot of money to see that interaction.
That's pretty, and it's true. That's
game intensity. Jay has little tolerance for nonsense. I can see a clown. What are you, some clown? I was there. You're not going to believe this.
But it is an amazing building.
Well, I think it's the most, I would say, storied facility in the world in terms of sports and events. Mm-hmm. Madison Square Garden, New York City. Bruno Sammartino, the old school wrestler who was basically the WWE's first international superstar, sold out Madison Square Garden 189 times as the headliner. Which isn't even,
that's kind of,
it's insane. Amazing. But when he was inducted into their Hall of Fame, I was there. We did a documentary about Bruno, and I was in the dressing room. And I can't believe you mentioned this, Jay. The circus had just been there, and there was straw. And I'm like, what the hell's all this? They said the circus. And so you brought back a vivid memory.
Yeah,
but let me tell you what happened. I was in a room, and in his dressing room, there was Triple H, who is, married to Vince McMahon's daughter, Stephanie. He's like the guy right now. And then there was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruno Sammartino, and then Donald Trump came in. Now, this is long before he became president, but he was a fan of Bruno's. But he was inducted into their Hall of Fame the same night because he was friends with Vince McMahon. He came in the room 4 different times. And one time I said to Bruno, I didn't know you knew Donald Trump. Because I don't. I said, well, he likes you. And he brought his kids in. And then he said, I want to introduce you to the man that moves most of the money in Manhattan, the president of Deutsche Bank. And Bruno goes, what's Deutsche Bank? I said, the Bank of Germany. Yeah, he's probably got a lot of money. But what a special place Madison Square Garden is.
Really
I didn't know they had bad ice sometimes.
It was just because, as you said, they turned the building over so many times. There could be a Knicks game in the afternoon. When you go, that's when the Rangers always go on a long road trip when the circus is in town. And it's usually later March, April, getting around playoff time for the hockey in the NHL. It's amazing how quick, and we see all the buildings turn it over, like from concerts to a basketball court or concerts to the ice. It's amazing what they do, the staff and all the roadies and what's all part of that. But like you said, the most going on in any one building, and it's Madison Square Garden. They could have multiple events, and the circus just happened to be one of them around playoff time.
One little cool thing. So I was in the Bruno's dressing room, and then everybody went out for a rehearsal on stage, and I was standing there with my phone, and who walks in but Arnold Schwarzenegger? And he looks around the room, and I said, Arnold, Bruno's out on the stage. And I swear to God, he says, I guess it's my line to say, I'll be back. And I'm like, he didn't just say that. That was pretty cool. All right, let's talk about this weekend. Penn State on the road to face Iowa, wearing those Steeler uniforms. Kirk Ferentz, always a Pittsburgh connection, their head coach, but the interim head coach of the Nittany Lions after James Franklin's departure, Terry Smith, who, if you go back, high school coach at Gateway and then a great college player himself and in the pros. What's the word from Happy Valley? Dave's entrenched.
Good to see him get a chance. I remember covering, when I was at Fox Sports and at Pittsburgh doing the high school games at Gateway, and always a great guy to talk to, always whatever we wanted, he would help us out with. So good to see him. We talked about him being there since Franklin arrived at Penn State. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come out. I mean, Iowa's not the greatest team, but whenever you play at Kinnick Stadium at night, it's always a good atmosphere. And to be the main guy on that sideline, really for the first time since high school, it's going to be interesting to see how
the whole college world's going to be looking in.
They will be. And like we talked about Tuesday, this is, listen, they don't need to win out, but they need to be competitive. They need to, because it's not just about this season. It's not just about the players on this team, but it's also the recruits down the road. And he plays a vital role in that recruiting game for Penn State. Yeah. But I'm excited to see him up on the sidelines and see how he does.
I would say, I know there's an interim tag with it, but that's not how he's going to be thinking. Any of us would be. If we got this opportunity to coach, you're trying to get them to be, as Dave was mentioning, get on a roll. And you want to get on a roll, so your name is one of the names that's in the running when you get to the end of the season. They're looking at bigger, they're looking at these other names. All the names we're hearing are, Matt Rule, and go down the line.
I saw
Urban Meyer, I heard today.
Urban Meyer. How about the one in these new deep fakes? Yeah, Bill Belichick and his girlfriend coming to Happy Valley. I doubt that's going to happen, but hey, who knows?
But look what they're doing, and
right.
He wants to have his name be in that ring. He got handled. He's been given the responsibility, and he wants to make a mark. And I'm looking forward to that game too. Just the way we're watching Pitt, I'm looking forward to this game and seeing how the success. I can only imagine the feeling, and Dave, you were alluding to it, from being a high school coach, and that's the last time you were like on the sideline where you controlled it. Now he's controlling Penn State, like a program like no others. They're top programs in the world and in the nation. And what a great thing for him to go into, and he wants to make his mark. So.
And not just at the end, but if there is a new coach, how he plays out this year gives him a chance to be retained by that.
Yeah, that's a good
point too. Yeah. So
no, that's what I'm saying. He's got to get his name in the ring.
It's an audition.
Yeah, it is. Like he's trying to make a mark on it.
I'm just curious how the players are going to react.
I can't imagine that. I think I said on Tuesday, the practice that the start of this week had to be some of the better practices for those guys coming in. There's too much noise around Franklin the whole time. And everybody, that's the way it goes when you're, under a microscope. There was just too much noise. So when they're coming out there, now they've got other eyes on them, looking at them differently. You better start performing. They have to perform. Like I said, I believe maybe, we talked about coaching, and Dave's talked about a lot how they don't win the big game. Coaching had a problem with it, but so did the players. The players have now paid money. Can't imagine they're not haven't had a great week of practice getting ready for this weekend. And I'm sure there's another level of excitement that Dave mentioned on Tuesday was flat at the stadium. They don't want that anymore. So I expect them to be really on top of it.
Look at how UCLA reacted when they fired their head coach. I mean,
they had a big win.
This started. Yeah. That basically got Franklin fired. Right. That loss.
And then they had a big win again on
Michigan State.
Yeah. I mean, that was a significant win for UCLA. So it can change, and it changed for Pitt. It looked like things were going downhill fast, like they did at the end of last year for Pitt after they ripped off 7 straight wins to open the season last year. This year, they lose game 2 and 3 or game 3 and 4, and then you're thinking, is this going to be a repeat? They changed the quarterback to this true freshman, 18-year-old from Oregon, Ohio, near Toledo. And Mason Heinschel comes in, tears it up on his first drive. He scores a touchdown against Boston College. First drive against Florida State. They go for 3 fourth-down conversions and convert and end up winning that game. He had thrown a couple of picks. One was basically a punt on a big third down. Yeah. But the red zone one stung and put them behind, but they didn't quit. And they came back and won that game. So now they go on the road, a winnable game in Syracuse, and then NC State's struggling. They come to Acrisure following Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see how Pitt plays out their season because they're still in it in the ACC.
Absolutely. And I think this week in Syracuse is going to be a telling game for him, for the quarterback, because, Boston College, your first start, you don't need any extra motivation. It doesn't matter who you're playing there. You're going to come out, ready to play. Then your first road start in Tallahassee against Florida State as a double-digit underdog, same thing. There's no motivation factor needed there. Now you go on the road, okay, you've established yourself as a starter. You're playing against a team you're expected to beat by 10 plus points. How does he respond to that? And I think if they come out and win this game, you look at their schedule coming up, then it's versus NC State at Stanford, 2 winnable games. And as you mentioned, Larry, they finish out the season against Notre Dame, at Georgia Tech, and at home against Miami. All 3 teams ranked in the top 15 right now. So if they get hot, they can make a run. They're already getting some votes in the rankings. If they continue to win and win and win and get to those last 3 games, who knows what can happen?
I think what'll be interesting too, it'll be a couple of weeks of people watching film. And then what is his tendencies and what are they looking at? But I think the run, we talked about multiple guys coming back and made a difference, but that's one. So we see how he handles that part. Secondly, I think if you're on that team, you're trudging out the work for your weekly practice. It was flat. And now you win a couple of games as an athlete, you're all of a sudden, the energy level is completely different. Just in a couple of weeks, the turnaround from, being down and then now you win 2 in a row. Now guys are anxious to get out on the field, anxious to practice, make yourself better for coming up for Syracuse. That's what happens inside a locker room. When you're losing, there's nothing worse. If you look at halfway through the college football season and you're going to Acrisure Stadium, the building's half empty, that's a bad vibe, a bad take. This has changed it around completely for the positive, and I hope they can stay on a roll.
We'll see what happens on the road. That's Saturday night against the Orange. Indoors.
Yeah, different look for them now too, right? First indoor game probably.
That place is strange. I can tell you that. Originally, it was the Carrier Dome because the Carrier air conditioning company is in Syracuse. Here's the oddity. It wasn't air conditioned because they had the air pressure keep up the dome originally. Now they have a different roof. But I always thought, what's the irony that an air conditioning company gets the naming rights, but it doesn't have AC?
Larry's the only guy. See, Larry brings a certain levity to our table because I didn't know that. And I think that's a pretty good story, Larry. It's very ironic, but thank you for that.
The more you know.
I know how I have to dress to be on the sidelines Saturday night, to put it that way. All right, Penguins. Jay, just overall, you sense a renewed energy just in the team. You really feel it as a fan.
You need to now. They got into the West Coast, all right? You had a great start. They're on the West Coast swing right now. And you want to come back with that same enthusiasm. So this trip to me, we'll be more to talk about it next week because this trip for me, it has to be a successful one because you want to keep the good vibes going. I believe I've said 10 games. Maybe I should say 15 to 20 is going to dictate what the organization has to do. But they got off to a great start. This West Coast swing that they're currently on is going to tell a lot.
Jay, is it good when you're introducing new players, whether teenagers or just guys new to the team, to have this trip early on the season to kind of get that bonding experience?
It's a really good point, Dave. Yeah, I do. To get on the road with the guys, and look, there's a couple of them aren't old enough to drink. So, but just being out on the road.
Sure. How about that?
I know. It's kind of crazy to me, right? Wasn't it? They're both of them weren't born when Crosby was, think about that. Inside of 20 years he's been playing. Right? These guys were born inside of his career. So, but yeah, Dave, that's a really good, I think the one thing about getting on a long road trip, how it works in the NHL, what it's all about, they're getting treated like they're going from playing junior hockey on buses and now they're chartering everywhere. Everything first class across the board. What a great experience. I do think they bond with that. I think it's big for all teams, but when you have young guys and new guys come into the fold, it's very good.
And I really enjoyed it. You could dial back the conversation that we had with Pierre Maguire, who's back doing 41 games with the Penguins broadcast team. He's so knowledgeable, so easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And I liked his takes on where he thought this team was going to go. And you made a point, this team has to start faster. Certainly, instead of chasing yourself, get a better start and be in the running right from the get-go.
Yeah, and as much as we talk about all the new talent, they just need the goaltending to stay, as all teams do. But the goaltending has to be solid, like above. It's the kind of thing where no soft goals, stop what you're supposed to, and steal a few. Like, they're going to beat you. There's a town of players, the best league in the world. You're going to get beat sometime, but he can't let a soft goal in. It's deflating. So we've seen it over the last number of years. The goaltending is so key going forward here. And let's hope. They started well at the beginning. Let's see what happens.
All right. Anything else to clear your plate, Dave?
How about a quick talk, real quick. Bengals, Steelers. Yeah, tonight.
Tonight in the Queen City.
Yeah, so, we talked Tuesday, Joe Flacco's first start came against the Packers. Now he's got a little bit more than a week of practice to get acquainted with his new weapons. And, how about he goes from Cleveland to Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond. Now he's throwing to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the outside. And I think that's what he did on Sunday was he got the ball in the playmaker's hands. Yeah. That was the frustration with Browning when he was the quarterback. He wasn't getting the ball to the outside. He wasn't, especially not with any accuracy. But Jamar Chase, 10 catches, T. Higgins, 5 catches against the Packers. That'll be something to watch. Short week, Trey Hendrickson got hurt. Yeah. See if he's able to play, how much he's able to play this week. And then Steelers 5.5-point favorite. This is the first time they're going to be playing the Bengals on Thursday night since November 20th, 2008. That game was in Pittsburgh. That was Ben Roethlisberger versus Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick is now going to be there
as a broadcaster.
Amazon Prime.
He's played maybe for more teams than Joe Flacco, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think between the two of them, they both played for every team except the Steelers.
I think in that game too, I think as far as that game goes, I will say this. I watched that game against the Packers. Packers supposed to have a vaulted defense, a team that's going to be good, all these kind of things. I watched Joe Flacco go up and down against the Packers in the second half. Once he kind of found a little bit of a rhythm, they found it at the end of the half, and then he built on it. They get the kickoff and they go. You just can't, Green Bay couldn't get to him. And he's not fleet of foot right now, right? He never was. He's a pocket passer, right? So, but he made all the smart decisions. They talked about one thing, guys, and it's whenever there was a play that was in doubt, he threw it in the turf. He didn't hope it might get through to somebody. If there was a chance of getting picked off, he threw it right in the dirt. So to me, he was on it with Chase and T. Higgins, and I think you got to watch it. But they protected him really well against a defensive front that's supposed to be able to get to the quarterback, and they did not. Green Bay did not. So I think that's something to watch out for when we get into tonight's game.
But keep in mind, anything can happen in the NFL. That said, before we go, let's get your predictions for Steelers, Bengals. Dave.
Packers ran the ball for over 150 yards on Sunday against the Bengals. Bengals defense giving up over 30 points per game. So another get right moment for the Steelers. I'm going to go Steelers 27, Bengals 14.
27-14 Steelers. Big man.
Yeah, for some reason, why do the games always get closer? Do the Steelers ever run it up enough for to cover all the time? Whatever. So, but I still think the same. I watched Josh Jacobs really in the second half run all over them too. So I'm going to go 24-7 Steelers.
All right. 24-7 Steelers. Counting on the defense.
I am. Yep.
I'm going to say it gets a little loose, but Steelers score more points. 31-24 Steelers. We'll see how it goes. All right, gentlemen.
Yeah. All right, boys.
Want to thank One Team Media, Brian Hess and Ryan Jorgen, and also Logan Douglas. Want to thank Michael Spacciapoli from Odyssey Pittsburgh, strategic partnership with 93.7 The Fan. And also Dave Rourke and the Rourke Automotive Group. Thank you for being our title sponsor. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, Dave. Thank you, guys. And that's Offset, Larry and the Big Man, and Dave Ricchini. That's a wrap.